Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spotted. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is the 1st of July, and we've got jobless claims today, non-farms payrolls tomorrow, so it's been a pretty quiet week, pretty quiet, like 2 or 3 weeks, really. Today, we could have some more interest, and the end of month flow into the close yesterday was really interesting. So coming over here, first of all, you can see the E-mini. Again, there was like a little bit of a sell-off overnight. They recovered it, and then going into the close, they were, going up higher. It was actually quite volatile here, though. They were like spiking up and coming all the way back several times. But even more interesting here is the treasuries, which right at the equities close just puked everything. So they were up pretty good on the day, and then they gave away all of those gains in the last minute. And I can only attribute, I haven't seen anything about it anywhere. I can only attribute it to end of month flows there, but they dumped. All right, looking at other, there's no change in the spread or anything like that. So I would have to say it's probably just the end of month flow. Okay, over here in oil coming down a little bit. They're expected 50 million barrels per day is the expectation. So it seems like everything with OPEC and everything is going as expected over there. Sorry, oil. So they are moving up though because of that, right? That's the news. Moving oil is the OPEC expectations. Gold and silver recovering a little bit, but still within their ranges. Silver a little bit more bullish. And copper still being fairly quiet. It's, ever since the Chinese cracked down on that, it's just kind of been chilling. By the way, I am showing the right screen, right? Sometimes when I turn the monitors off and back on, it doesn't register back correctly. Okay. Anyways, so coming back over to here, for our news, we have initial jobless claims expectation of 390,000 jobs versus a previous reading of 411,000 jobs. And just know this number is still pretty important because we got that non-farms tomorrow and everything else. So it's going to be interesting. Get the robots. Remind me to turn the robots on after the jobless claims. All right. Let me blow my nose here. I'm still kind of having these post-COVID effects, and I'm wondering if I finally need to go and see a doctor, and they'll probably give me a steroid or something. Got it. Okie dokie. So what else do we got? Let's make sure that we have the text-to-speech turned on. We'll check Discord here. S&P gained 14.4% in the first half of the year, its second best performance since the dot-com bubble. Interesting indeed. Today is 7/1/21. Tether's biggest Ponzi scheme ever. Where are the Department of Justice and Fed? Massive regulatory failure. We are living in the golden age of white-collar crime. Why is Stuart Hogner not in jail? I don't know who that is, George Noble. I mean, I feel like that there should be tighter regulation of Tether, for sure. For sure. Okay, you know what? I'm getting over here. Like, my ranges aren't set up correctly. Do I have time? No, not really. I have a minute. After that, I should fix that. I might take a serious trade in the E-mini here. 390 is the number we're looking for. Do you have any plans? Nothing concrete. I think my wife works for part of it, but we do have the kids. Trump, Oregon, their CFO were indicted last night in New York State Court. Yeah, so we get the news coming. I'll tell you what I think about that. Laser Eye, hi, hello. Not as strong of a pull over here in the treasuries as I would expect. Oh, I don't have financial juice turned on. Okay, 364, so it is better than expected. Hmm. Okay, so I'm just noticing here as this happens, the treasuries appear to be pushing down a little bit on that, and as a result, the E-mini looking weak. So there seems to be some pretty strong equity treasury correlation over the past little while, and we're continuing to see that again today. Well, snap. I'm just gonna bail. Didn't quite like how that turned out. They definitely sold on the news, but it was like it was not enough. And look, it rises on 942, 983. So something else going on here. All right, let's turn on Jay. Oh, so I changed Jay up a little bit. I have him running on the E-mini now. I'll probably set him up on a combine today. Oh, did I get anything from them on that? Let's see. Nope, not yet. Okay, so first of all, let's fix the sessions over here, right? So this one is MES, but the session should be CME indexes. There we go. Now we get like a real a real profile on it, right? This is ZB. And yeah, okay, these ones are fine because the default session is the Chicago Board of Trade. All right. Good morning, RJ. What about Gabby? So Gabby hasn't been working. Remember, it was all about this gap thing, and it seems like ever since we moved over to CQG data, I don't see those gaps anymore. And it seems a little sus to me, but... Hello, Brett. Seems a little sus to me, but we don't get them anymore. Because it's looking for a period where it trades through an area, right? So with on almost no volume. So with tick replay, there could be slight differences in like buys and sells and things like that, but like the number of contracts that go off at a price should remain the same, correct? So why that happens, it's a little suspect. Like the thing is that when it was in Rhythmic, it seemed like it was really telling me something. Like when it happened, it really, there was something going on. It was a good alert that something just happened. And now we don't get them anymore. And is it because of CQG or is it because the market is just different? I don't know. Seems a little soft. But until then, but in the meantime, Gabby didn't trading. We'll turn on Ace. Have Ace and J going. But J is the one that I think we're going to run the combine on. So I was doing a bunch of back testing on it. And I was like looking through. I was like, oh man. Like, this is such a gamble. Like, it could be amazing or it could be awful. And I have a lot of conflicting information, essentially. Well, the E-mini did move up a little bit. But look at that. Look at them. Look at them stacking up there. Too late. Oh, well. Let's pretend that we're long at 11.5. All right, that's good for us. 27 stacked, and then only 2,000 there, and a little bit nibbling into it. Probably we should get the fill. Yep, there you go. Good winner. Yep. So mad I missed that one. Was it because I wanted to change it from 1 tick to 2 ticks. That's why I missed it. Isn't there a buried data feed setting to autofill gaps in NinjaTrader 8? I don't think that's the same thing. Are they going to take 12.5 too? So this is really interesting. So just to review, the initial jobless claims was 364,000 versus an expected 388. So the news was better than expected. You would typically expect that to be hawkish on rates, and we're seeing a really strong move up. This could be some sort of short covering. I don't know. It's a little weird. So I'm okay with the E-mini moving up, but the treasuries, and maybe the treasuries move up a little bit, but as much as they just did, it's a little weird. I'm kind of tempted to sell that.
Winston's mom says good morning to everyone joining us now. Please take a quick second to hit the like button and the notification bell if you haven't yet. This helps speculators at channel numbers a lot. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Seeing a bunch of tweets and stuff everywhere, but nothing like significant today. You know what's something I've been noticing is that, it used to be like all Trump all the time, and they would pick up on whatever story they could on Trump and just like really exaggerate it. And in some cases they were almost completely making stuff up. Like some of the whole thing about Ukraine aid and everything, like they were complaining about him ending the Ukraine aid, but then like Joe Biden, he came in and did the same thing, right? So it was like, it was always fair, but now they've got nothing. They've got nothing, and I'm seeing the media, like, it's so funny to watch. Sometimes they just make a bigger deal out of certain things than they normally would, but some stories just feel like completely made up to me. Vlad says Combine rules get worse every time. Easier to trade your own account. Well, so you'll find out what they changed to their combine. It's not a huge deal, but it will help people a little bit. But micro contracts are definitely the way to do it. But they wanted to do a sponsored video. Like, here's the thing. My opinion is that, well, we've said this a million times. I don't need to tell you, right? You're better off trading micro contracts unless you're really sure you're going to pass the combine, or you're really not sure that you're going to pass the combine. All right, because if you're really sure that you're going to pass the combine, you can go and do like the largest combine, and you'd be able to probably be able to swing harder than you could with your own money. So that'd be and then do that until you've saved up enough that you could really trade with your own money, and then just do that, right? But then the other side is, if you're not sure, you could go and you could on the combine, you could trade riskier strategies, right? That's where I think, and that's what we're trying to do, basically. Like, it doesn't seem like a risky strategy, but when you look at the overall risk profile of Jay over a long period of time, there seems to be a lot of risk to him, okay? There's a lot of reasons why his performance is very different from on live versus the back test, and there are elements of him that we literally can't back test, or at least I don't have the data to. I think that I would have to write a lot of stuff and have a lot of data, so he's kind of risky. But in June, he only had like one losing day. So like, and he's not taking on bad risk reward. It's just that, like, if things get bad, he can have bad periods, right? There's probably some things that we can do to improve that, but I just haven't gotten around to those parts yet. So we're going to run him on the combine and see how he does on the combine. I think it'll be fun. You get realistic feels and understanding of how commissions and margins work. Yeah, so this is one of the things that's always really bothered me about the combines. I guess it doesn't, I'm probably 90% of the people doing the combines are going to be doing one of the indexes or crude oil. So for them, it's probably not as big of a deal. But like if you're doing treasuries, if you're doing like 10 years, yeah, you can totally cheat. This is like the strategy that I'm doing here, or that I've taken 2 trades off of. Yeah, that would not be accurate on the combine at all. Oh, they have a discount this month now. I don't know if they're supposed to announce the change that they're making today. So let's see what happens. It is an issue that people have complained about, so they are changing something that is fairly important, but I wish I could tell you more about it, but yeah, see, I'm getting a bunch of news stories here on Twitter about how Iran has denied entry for UN nuclear inspectors' visits to its main uranium enrichment plant, citing security concerns after the attack in April. I told them they need to bring down the cost for anyone to be interested in a 150K account on Twitter. Well, so that is an interesting thing too, right? Because I think that they've got their costs as low as they could probably make them, right? It's just data is just so effing expensive now. So it's typically like $150, right? Their earn to trade's $150 combine is tighter than Top Steps, unless something has changed. Okay, but like you have to pay $50 a month for data these days, anyways. So you're only paying $100 extra. Then if you added like a news squawk on top of that, like, you know, like there's that's kind of the thing is like, I think there's a way for combines to give retail traders more value, you know, like let me put it this way. The way that I think that combines need to start going, if I was going to make a recommendation for them to improve their business, it would be make something about your service that people would still be willing to pay a monthly fee for it, even if they were trading their own account. That's what they should be going for, right? And if I can go in and they give me the risk management help and they give me other things like earn to trade, you get journalytics. Okay, like that's really helpful. Or maybe they were partnered with Financial Juice, you know? Then a lot of people would do that. Okay, so let's go back because we do have some interesting news pieces. Okay, so Wynn pointed out the leader of or the chief financial officer of Trump's charitable organization was being indicted. So they are being indicted on some technicality relating to how they pay their employees, right? So what is this really? This is a squeeze. They are trying to squeeze this guy in the hopes of getting some sort of dirt that they could potentially prosecute Donald Trump with. That's probably, I mean, that has been the tactic that we've seen in the past in relation to Donald Trump many times. And we've often seen some of them like say, oh, I've got something, and then they don't actually have anything, right? Trying to hold something out to try and get a better sentence or something like that. So my takeaway from that whole episode is that the Attorney General really didn't have as much as they were telling everybody that they did. Like if the best they can do is kind of these charges on like this one technicality, that's not very much. So, and then it just kind of turns into let's try and squeeze people so that we can, try and get something on Donald Trump. Yeah, no, I think Uzi has it right. Every investigation and anything Trump related at this point is a reach to ensure that he can't run for president again. That is exactly it. They are absolutely terrified that Donald Trump will run again. I mean, it is interesting because, like, Trump is literally the only billionaire in the country that can't get away with anything. Well, let me tell you what. If Donald Trump ran again and it was Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, at this moment today, based on how the Biden administration has conducted itself in the first 6 months of its administration, I'm going to say that Donald Trump would win. Joe Biden's handling of the border has been like a real disaster, and Kamala Harris is like turning into a real disaster too. So apparently all of her, well, not all of her, but a substantial portion of her staffers are resigning and like leaking details and kind of backbiting and stuff. And what happens is Joe Biden will pass on something. Like there's this border deal. Oh man, like think about this from a political perspective. I think it's kind of important just to think about how policy is being conducted in the United States with Joe Biden right now, and its potential impacts on markets. Right, the crisis that is going on the border right now, the media is not talking about it, but it is a big deal. I mean, it is just unprecedented. The number of people that are coming over and the negative impacts that it is having on the border, right? And what does Joe Biden do? Oh, just give it to Kamala. Okay, so he delegates his vice president to deal with it, and then his vice president hasn't done anything, and if anything, has undermined people's confidence in the administration. Can you imagine if there was a significant financial crisis again, right? What if we found out tomorrow that the Federal Reserve has to raise interest rates or else, and it sends us into a recession and it creates some sort of liquidity crisis? Something goes on with the banks and the repos that results in, like let's say that there's a real systemic collapse of some sort, okay, to the point where we once again are talking about government stepping in and having to do something, okay? And what would Joe Biden do? Oh, okay, I am going to delegate Kamala Harris to handle the economic, you know what I mean? Like, you imagine how the markets would react to that. Like, it would be like, oh my gosh, super crazy. It'd be super crazy. So, yeah, that whole thing is really interesting. The Democrats will need SB1 to beat Trump that's not passing. They need the field flooded with the... Yeah, so yeah, that's the thing is, so if we were to go back, all of the extraordinary measures that they implemented for the election, like the expanded mail-in voting and the drop-off places and all of that, yeah, if that didn't happen, the ugly dude, yeah, go get therapy. If those didn't happen, probably Donald Trump wins. Like, it was close enough that a pretty good chance that he would win, right? Like, I think in Florida, good chance that he would have won in Florida. Or, sorry, Arizona. He would have won Arizona. That would have been it, right? Uzi, so a little bit of hyperbole there. That's funny. So Tommy asks, is there already an election campaign again? So there's not, but realize that if you want to be ahead of the curve, now is the time to start thinking about it, right? Because think about the way that the year and everything goes, right? There is an election in November of 2022 for Republicans in the Senate and everything, right? So right now is when you work on getting challengers and everything else like that. Like this is the point at which if it was a presidential year, right? If it was a presidential year, we would be speculating right now about who's going to run and who doesn't. And then in the fall, people would start announcing, right? Like that's where we are in the cycle. So it kind of is time to start thinking about it. And that's probably why you're seeing some of the things that you are in the Senate. Like, for instance, with Democrats, what if they don't get an infrastructure deal and they don't get their reconciliation thing through? Okay. It's going to be really hard for them to hold the House of Representatives in 2022 under those circumstances. That's why they're trying so very, very hard. And to be quite frank, there's not much impetus at the moment for the economy to continue recovering. We're kind of facing a period where there could be a 10 to 20% pullback simply because there's no further drivers. And that is without stimulus, right? So they really want that stimulus too to keep the economy running strong, you know? And why is that like such a big deal right now? Because after this year, then you're in like full on election mode. So like, what are the chances that you're going to get something really huge done next spring? It's like substantially less. The crisis that is just around the corner is much bigger than a politician. Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's really like a true crisis around the corner, but I do think that, you know, a summer of volatility sort of a situation, or actually probably more likely it's going to be in October, right? So a really volatile October could happen. Yeah, I think it could happen. The sort of market decline that everybody forgets about, but that if you're day trading and you're not on the ball, it could blow your account. You know what I mean? Oh, American Dream gave us $2. Thank you very much. Are you promoting your good grief? How does that work? Yeah, it was a donation. Okay. Well, thank you very much for the $2. Back to normal you guys have said a bunch of stuff in here. I know, right? That's exactly. I have to be honest with you, right? Like that is exactly what goes through my mind. Okay, like I am one pretty socially conservative. Okay, and I am concerned about some of the things that I am seeing in society today, like with the OnlyFans thing, where they're like literally grooming all of the high school girls to go and become OnlyFans content creators, and like there's like affiliate links so that you get a portion of their earnings if they do well and things. So they're like, they're like pushing other girls into trying it. Like I have big problems with that. That doesn't seem right. I'm actually really interested if OnlyFans creates a more general service to compete with Patreon. I might move over. But yeah, OnlyFans is a digital pimp for a generation of prostitutes. That's a little problematic, right? Okay. But I am also very ADHD. Okay. So like I have very little control over my attention. Okay. If there is a pretty girl around, like I'm going to notice, and I'm going to have a very difficult time paying attention to anything else. Like it's really bothers me when it happens, because I feel like, oh, they must think I'm a creep or I'm so stupid, but like I can't help notice. And yes, that's the first thing I see there is like, oh, okay, somebody gave us a donation. Oh, wait, it's a girl in a bikini. Okay. Well, but that's probably just trying to spam their channel or something like that. Which I kind of wonder about those sorts of things, because I've seen, for a long time, there would be like a lot of comments on the video that were clearly spam like that. And I'm like, does that really generate enough traffic for it to be worth the effort, But people keep doing it, so maybe it must be. I don't know. So we got to backtrack here. Okay, so backtracking now, if I can just completely change the subject. So then you mentioned the Robinhood thing. Okay, so Robinhood paid a fine, admitting that they had harmed their investors. So basically, this is we want to pay a fine and settle the charges now so that we can do an IPO. That's really what that's about, right? It's a little frustrating to me. Like, yeah, they've done their customers great harm, and they just pay like a little cost of business fine, like once they've IPO'd, what is gonna force Robinhood to act appropriately? Like seriously. I know that their FINRA or whoever it is, the regulatory agencies are doing an examination of payment for order flow, and trying to determine if they should change some rules there. So maybe they do that, and that's good. But there doesn't seem like there's much incentive for these actors to play nice with the retail traders at all. And if anything, they're just kind of incentivizing it more, because I think you probably would make more money than you would pay with the fine. There have been so many IPOs lately. I wonder what is driving such volume. Well, so my understanding of it, I wish I was an investment banker. Actually, no, I don't. I think I would be a terrible investment banker. But my understanding is that because the liquidity conditions and everything are so easy, it's very cheap to do an IPO right now. And because there are so many people in the market, you can do quite well with your IPO. So there's a real rush to IPO while the market is hot, which kind of makes you wonder, right? Like, okay, so you want to IPO, why this year, not like next year? Maybe the market will be even better next year, and you know what I mean? But probably not. Thank you. Yeah, if it's I'm not going to answer questions that are like completely off topic. If I see it and I can like somehow relate it to trading or my interests, then maybe we'll talk about it. But I'm not gonna just completely veer off into sunbathing. Like, okay, nobody cares. The treasuries were coming back a little bit, and now they've bid back up. They've bid back up pretty aggressively. Jay the robot did try to take a trade. I kind of wonder, maybe I need to run 2 versions of him. Because I'm wondering if he would have done the same thing if it was a micro contract. That's one of the issues I had, was I was backtesting, and it was like, when I backtest this on ES, it does really well, and when I backtest this on MES, it doesn't do well. But then when I forward tested it on MES, it did okay. So is that because that period was good, or is it that data that I was getting wasn't just not very real to life? And if I traded on the ES, is it going to do well or not? Or, I don't know. I know that's a little pedantic and difficult to wrap your head around, but like, I wish I had more time. I wish I had another month. Like when I did that, and I realized like I'll probably better for the combine to run a full ES contract, right? It was like crap. I guess I could just run 10 micros. I went looked it up, and I could run 10 micro contracts. Maybe that's what I should do. It would certainly be a lot more in fees though. Oh, there we go. Okay. Some weird data aberrations. While I'm thinking about it, I wonder if we can go in and look at our data now for how the changes that we've made to the stream have been affected things.
Winston's mom says at Uzi Knesset, good job. I was watching and waiting and figured this would happen. I am glad you decided first.
Okay, 400. So we're about on track with what we normally are. And when I go to impressions, Wednesday impressions were about what they typically are. Actually, maybe a little bit less. That is interesting. It could be the case that just less videos overall leads to less impressions. Probably though, we need to, but the impression click-through rate increased. So it could be the case that we get less impressions, like maybe even a third less impressions, but the impression click-through rate rises, and so we do better in the algorithm in the long run. That's kind of my hope. Pretty good steepening of the curve here, by the way. When potatoes start to grow roots, it's time to throw them away. Yeah, you guys can totally make those kinds of calls, I think. So the thing is that I see all of the messages anyways, because my little interface thing doesn't hide them, right? So if you deleted a message and I decided that I wanted to address it anyways, it would be fine. But I think that like community self-policing is good, right? Like a community does well when there's a well understood agreement about how things happen, right? That's why a lot of these, like small groups of people can work really well and can be really unified, right? And since that's really what we are, is generally small, very small group of people, right? They come in and say, well, okay, we do go off topic sometimes, but there's a limit. Yeah, would be a good thing. And then strictly enforcing that so that any people are, hesitant to say anything stupid. So I wondered if I just come through in here like... okay, yeah, now I can see. So the other thing that was interesting was that like yesterday's video did not get as many views as they normally we're getting close up to 200, and yesterday was 133. I don't know if that difference is like important, but the volume weighted average yeet one still gets views. That's funny. Oh, and then there's that's today. Getcha. But what I'm really interested in is, okay, yeah, like this maintaining algorithmic trading strategies. How many views is that getting afterwards? And it looks like it's actually is getting a decent number of impressions still, so that's good. So I think we're on a good track. Usually the moderators who are here every day are quick to see the patterns when someone comments, so we may key into a bit quicker because your primary focus is on the stream. Yeah. I think we need to be a little bit more careful about our tradecraft because he does appear to be changing his tactics a little bit, but it also kind of seems like he is maybe a little impulsive or something, because he will start out doing really well and kind of like, oh, I'm suspect that that's him, but I'm not really sure, and I just try and be nice because maybe it's a new subscriber. And then after a while, it's like he can't help himself and he starts doing dumb things. Hit the like button. Yeah, thank you. It's kind of hard with the on the channel stats. It's kind of hard because we tend to be low in the summer anyways, so like it's really tough. Probably next year maybe we should spend some more time thinking about what we should do over the summer to try and keep the channel activity up. Oh, what's Paul Krugman saying? The CEA. Wait, who is the CEA? Council of Economic Advisors. Okay, the Council of Economic Advisors is telling us not to put too much weight on tomorrow's job number, good or bad, and rightly so. It's a paradox that the pandemic has created an unprecedented demand for high-frequency economic information and degraded the quality of that. Oh, it's very true. It's very true. He's right. But I would argue that tomorrow's number is pretty important. Maybe talk about the market more. Well, but that's the thing, is there's not a lot to talk about with the market in the summer. It's not just that trade slows down in the summer. Business activity overall slows down during the summer. Businesses don't make as many moves. So there is just simply less news to talk about. Oh, I never noticed that. But see, that's exactly what I'm talking about when you don't share the tradecraft. You're probably right, though. He comes in to troll me for, the time before the market, and then just before the other streamers get online when they're going to be doing, they got all the guys that start because they start just before the stock market open, and he goes and trolls them. Read that one out.
Instance, mom says good morning at 8 straight dancing into our Thursday morning, and if you scroll up about 20 minutes or so, there is a cute girl in a bikini who gave speculators $2 in a woohoo or two.
It's like a reverse strip club, right? That really is a lot of free time. Well, like the thing you have to admit it's kind of weird, right? Because this guy does do things that, show some technical competence. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there are like things out there that kind of do all of this for you, but even then using them requires a certain amount of savvy. This is kind of a weird. Imagine spending 3 to 4 hours a day juggling dozens of Google accounts just to mess with people. Yeah, it's kind of like. But that's the thing, is it seems to me like he like I don't. Okay, let me back up. There are some things that I have seen where I'm like, what the heck is going on? It's much more often when like somebody is scamming the trader community, and I'm like, why do people fall for that? And when I go in and I actually look at like what's going on, and people start showing me what's really going on, I find out that really they are scamming people that didn't really have the money to begin with, right? Like, which is really, really kind of sad when you think about it, because these people are spending thousands of dollars. And you're like, how do they fool people like this? It turns out that it's thousands of dollars that those people just didn't actually have, right? Like they took it out on debt or whatever. So, and a lot of these people are like crack addicts that live in shacks and stuff. Like, no joke. So then when you see somebody doing kind of, trolly behavior and everything, you automatically assume, or at least I think I automatically assume that, oh, they must not be all there, and that's the sort of thing that they're doing. Well, I don't think that that's the case with him. I think he is, in his country, fairly well off. Imagine 1,000 years ago and there's a village. What did these people do in the village back then? Sell snake oil or hide under a bridge and really live as a troll? I don't think speculator Seth will print that one out and tape it on the fridge to show the children what you did at work today. You're looking... now that's interesting. Is the V-Way showing you short, or is it something else? Or is it because it's a little in this exact location for the past? Well, really, since the news, it's been tight. I think if Salim had like a genuine ulterior motive, he'd just target bigger channels. Maybe. Well, the thing that's also interesting about it, I wanted to go long, so if I type short, maybe. One of my robots has a position on, but we'll see. I don't. It's I like the time for it to take it, and it's like the right trade and everything, but I'm a little skeptical of it. Yeah. Anyways, if he had an ulterior motive, he'd target bigger channels. Yeah, and that's the thing, is like it seems like he doesn't like just outright hate the channel. It's more like his entertainment. Like he goes back and forth on how much he likes me or not. At least that's what it seems like to me. And he and like when he talks about anger management, he probably, I don't know, maybe he really does have anger management issues. I don't know. Maybe we should have talked about that and acknowledged his feelings a little bit better. Well, I'm my guess on the market action right now, if I had to wager a guess, is that it's probably going to continue to be really tight going into the open. But that there will probably be at least one kind of rush, because I think that people are going to want to go long in general today. So, but it might be another one of those, they're all going to get long trying to get a good spot before the open. And then you get a little bit of a buy spike on the open, and eventually it goes down. That's kind of my guess. Republicans are getting nervous that the IRS might get the funding it needs to start cracking down on rich tax cheats. No, that's not the case at all. I think that the Republicans are nervous that the IRS would use its power to harass Republican organizations. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid that every Republican is going to get audited. Bitfinex is retweeting this tweet from somebody. They're saying they likened people wanting a Bitcoin ETF to people wanting chocolate. And the SEC is saying, no, brush your teeth first. And then they're like, but we want chocolate. No, brush your teeth. And they're right. It's going through the same thing. They request the ETF and then it doesn't happen. And why not? Because certain things need to happen. And they're not doing those certain things and then still think that the ETF is going to happen. I love the idea of rich tax cheats, like rich people don't pay legions of tax attorneys to maximize their advantages in a muddled, complicated tax code. Well, like one of the things is that I don't think that most rich people sit down and see like a higher tax and immediately go, oh man, I'm going to make $99 million next year instead of $100 million next year. That's so awful. I have to change my life. Like that is something that Democrats talk about. I think that they're right about. I think that when I think of it from my perspective, I'm always thinking about allocation of capital, right? I want to allocate capital as efficiently as possible. And part of that means trying to keep as much of my money as possible. And so I'm going to use whatever methods are legal to keep that money, right? So when Democrats talk about people being tax cheats, I don't think that it's so much tax cheats as it is that there's a lot of gray areas that are kind of gray largely because the government hasn't made any effort to enforce them, right? And so they still use them. So I think that if the government came around and just set up stricter laws around those things, that the increased enforcement wouldn't be as huge of a deal. That the majority of the money would just come back, as it's supposed to. But I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe. Because another thing is, I think about like this streamer controversy where there was streamers that were streaming gambling, even though it was like illegal in their country and everything. And they're like actively marketing basically gambling to like kids. And everybody's like, why would you do that? Because these are streamers that are already like millionaires. Like they're already making millions of dollars from streaming. So why would they, so if you're already making $1 million, would a casino coming along and saying, hey, we'll pay you $1 million to stream this? Is that really like attractive to you? Because to me, it would be attractive. I wouldn't do it, but I would certainly have a hard time saying no. You know what I mean? Well, I'm kind of starting to learn that the type of person that gets in that position, right? Because those streamers are really the ones that were like just willing to sell themselves out the most, you know? That kind of person is, does go for those sorts of things, even though to the rest of us, it seems like a really dumb and greedy thing to do, right? And so maybe there are a large number of people that are really vigorously hiding the money from the law. But trust me, as a small business owner, particularly in the service industry, being above the table entity is the exception, not the rule. But what do you mean by being above the table entity? I've never heard that phrase before. Uzi, you're speaking rich. We're not rich. You got to speak in poor people language. Don't know what you mean. Oh, running your business legally and paying all the required. I gotcha. Well, it is probably the case that for most small businesses that they just don't necessarily have the organization and everything to really be on top of everything all the time, right? Well, that's the thing is every study that I've seen on this subject basically says that the amount of money the amount of the economy that actually gets taxed basically stays constant. And you're just kind of flipping things around, but that like when you try and tax these people more, then they just do more to hide it and stuff like that. Like that doesn't really actually accomplish anything. And that does seem to be the case. Yeah, small businesses level running 1099 independent contractors to avoid taxes and workman compensation requirements. Yeah. But to the average small business owner, independent contractor just means someone I can pay under the table, despite the fact that the legal definition involves a bit more. He's short. You think he's short? Let's see here. Bitfinex. We are investigating issues with platform reduced performances and have temporarily halted trading. We will keep everybody updated here and on. Yeah. Okay. If you say so. Just hanging out until 10 gotta give. Oh, I gotcha. Oh, by the way, we don't have any other news today, right? Oh, we do. We have ISM at the top of the hour, and we've got market at 7:45. You need a new roof? Oh, there's this guy on TikTok that is like a home inspector. And a lot of what he does is like people are trying to flip a house. And so they show the result of the flip and, you know, all of the mistakes that people made. Oh, it's so crazy. So crazy. And especially some of the roofs that I've seen, I was like, okay, if your roof is old, but these roofs, I was like, how is anybody living in there? Like, that's so crazy. Jason, I'm new to NinjaTrader, but I downloaded your multi-candle code, but I'm having trouble locating it after the download. Okay, so the first thing is it's a zip file, so you should be able to go in, like, to install it, you'd go Tools, Import, NinjaScript add-on and then import the zip file that you downloaded. Okay. After you do that, you need to restart NinjaTrader. Because it's a bar option type, you have to restart NinjaTrader for it to show up. And then you add a new data series and you'll go to data series. And then under chart style, you should see the new chart style, multi-period candles. And that's how you do it. I'm guessing that you haven't restarted NinjaTrader, so you have to add a new data series. I mean, you could do it to an existing data series, but the whole point of it is to add multiple data series on top of each other and over, like that's what this chart down here in the lower right is. It's a 1 minute, or is it a 5 minute? It's a 5 minute and a 1 range overlaid on top of each other. But you have to, you're probably not seeing it because you haven't restarted NinjaTrader. I gotta be the only middle-aged man in Florida who doesn't roof. Can you imagine being a roofer right now, man? And it's 110 degrees outside some days. It is so hot out there. Okay, we're not supposed to water our grasses much. So we've only been doing it like 2 times a week now. But then on top of that, it's been really windy every night. So when it does water, not as much of it makes it on the grass. And so there are a few spots that are kind of yellow, but I think they should be okay. But the grass overall, like it's not growing. Like it's not really growing very much. It's a gold mine in Florida. Hit up insurance companies, bilk the hell out of them, use crews of illegals, pay them cheap. It's huge money. Huh. They bilk the insurance company so hard they'll pay your deductible if it's reasonable enough. You get a roof for free. Really? Huh. Well, I've always heard that you can make good money in roofing, but I always thought that it was because nobody wants to do it because it's hard. Okay, initial impulse up. Somewhat constrained. It's only like 500 contracts so far. Is that enough, by the way, to... Oh, yep, it was. Yep, it stopped Jay out. Mikey, the hardest part is getting onto the roof. He makes so much they offered to give you the sales commission? What? Wow. I mean... Oh, that's interesting. I should go into roofing, apparently. I don't know. I feel like I would like to get into something else. I think it's just my ADHD, though, right? Sometimes, if I am hungry... Sometimes if I am hungry, I kind of get into this mode like, this is getting tiring. There's no point. I should just stop doing all this and yada, yada, yada. I don't know why I do that. Because I don't think that it's logical thoughts. It only seems to happen when I'm hungry. It's like I get hungry and my body wants to go into like depression mode or something. My premiums are suffering because of it, but we may as well get a free roof out of it. Well, so far it looks pretty good. I'm a little concerned that there might be a bit of a decline, though. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to make this one be MES and maybe we'll see if we get a difference. I'll just make this chart like really tiny. Oh no, that doesn't work because I don't have the indicator on it. In other words, this is your creativity wanting to express itself in some new way. I think it's just my ADHD mind dopamine seeking. So like for a while, I was able to placate myself here by playing Overwatch again. So, you know, I hadn't been playing any games for a while, and Overwatch was like really frustrating. I got into this most recent season, and it was a lot better than it was. Didn't mean that I was good at it, but wasn't the same kind of problems where it was like your team was like throwing every time. Like every game, I feel like that we could be in it if people just work together, and so that, you know, that's been fun. But like I think that the brain likes the novelty of it, right? And so it's looking for new ways to get social approval and therefore get its fix, right? Or something for it to just really dive into. And where do you get that from? So then you start thinking about the channel, and it's like, well, what should we do next for the channel? And I have a pretty good list out of like, okay, here are what I think are the best videos. But then you have to ask, okay, but are those videos going to make this channel a 100,000 subscriber channel? I wish that was the case, but I don't think that is the case. So then you kind of come to this realization that given the current purpose of the channel, there is an upper limit of how far it can get, and we're getting close to that limit, right? Like we could probably get to, like, I think that it would be very difficult to get this channel above 20,000 subscribers. If we had over 20,000 subscribers, it would be like, what's going on? What are your new numbers on the dome on the... Oh, I have the Japanese yen to the side there, is what that is. Just the Japanese... It's a, you know, I kind of hid part of it, but there's a DOM for the Japanese yen there, is what that is. Tucker Carlson is in a credibility battle with the NSA, and so far he's losing. Okay, that one is interesting. Yeah, so the NSA came out and said, "Oh, we've done no such thing." It's like, well, okay, somebody gave him the proof. He seems to genuinely believe that that's the case. You like some role? No, I hate turn-based games. Oy. No. But that's the thing about it, is I think its novelty is kind of the thing. I don't know. This is what I was saying. Like, once we have the stuff that's like the best trader information, you know. Really, yeah, I have everything out there that's like anything that I know that I would say to a new trader. Then beyond that, to have a broader appeal, the broader appeal has to be, well, the reason you listen to me is because I'm the day trader that's the expert in how bonds work and stuff like that, right? And so you'd be interested in my opinion of the markets because of that. That's a lot of like what you guys like to listen to this stream for, right? So I think that the channel will have to in order to continue growing, the focus of the channel will have to shift to more of that, right? And we certainly can do okay with that because like we've made videos about like the Las Vegas shooting, for instance, and politics that were able to pick up some traction, right? So we can do that, but I've been reading that the font you use on YouTube can affect whether someone clicks it or not. Oh, I'm sure. Man, like the science of thumbnails is really weird. Although I've seen some channels do really well that have really bad thumbnails, so it's like, I don't know. What did you say about the Vegas? I made two videos actually that went through the common conspiracy theories that people had made at the time and debunked them. It was a debunking video that did quite well. There was actually some other ones. You know what I never did that I wish I had thought of it more at the time, but the whole Heather Hoyer thing, there are a lot of people on the right that think that she didn't actually get hit and that the only reason she died was because she was very unfit. And that is just so not the case. And so there was these people doing a video analysis saying, here's Heather and here's what happens is the car stops right by her and then she just kind of rolls over. But that is not what happened. And the person that they identify in that video was not her. She was much further up the road. And there was a video of her just before she got hit. So we know where she was. But when you watch it in the top views that we have, it's like there's people there and then the next frame they're gone and you don't see where they go. But when you look at where she was and where she ended up, she got dragged by that car like 20-30 feet. Like, yeah, if she had survived, it would have been a miracle. Is the whole thing. And I think that when you're making a debunking video, YouTube seems to like debunking videos. It does. It likes to promote that kind of content, like legitimate information, right? So I think that would have done well. And that one bothers me because I see a lot of people on the right say things about that incident that are just objectively not true and hurt their cause, frankly. Hurts their cause, frankly. So I wish I had made that video, for instance. But, you know, for the channel, we'll probably be much more focused on economics with some politics. So the thing was I made a big push for politics during the election, right? And then I kind of gave up on it very quickly because I found when I started having success with it, the metrics that I got from it suggested to me that it wasn't a positive thing for the channel, so I stopped. My leg is really fidgety right now. Is the whole screen, is my camera shaking? And just my leg is shaking here. I feel like I can't stay still. I could teach you how to read tarot cards. The psychics online do better than the churches do on YouTube. Oh, that's funny. Is your earthquake video still up on the top list of the most watched on this channel? Yeah, I think it is actually. So I went back and I like ranked the videos by. Let me show you. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, we reached 6,100 subscribers. So when I come over here to live, and by the way, this one, so I'm making, the way that I've decided to do it is that you'll only see the most recent video. So this one is going to be unlisted, but it will be in the, like this is yesterday's, right? But it is in the live streams playlist. So if you want to see a live stream from several days back, you're going to have to know about the playlist, because it's not going to recommend them to you. And I think that makes sense. Like, I feel like that anybody seeing a recommendation for a live stream that's several days old, that they shouldn't want to watch that content. Like, it shouldn't be relevant anymore. And anything that's in there that would have been relevant, we should clip out and make a separate video, you know, if it was really that good. But I can come in by, oh, I had a way. Oh, I need to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, views. So there was a couple of the top ones that I kept public. So the earthquake one is not quite as big as the Bitcoin futures one, but, and then the GameStop one was the next. So I left those ones on. Okay, so we just got the market manufacturing number 62.1 versus an estimated 62.6, which is slightly lower than expected. The mini seems to be rising pretty hard off of that. I don't know if there's really any reason for it to be doing that, but if we leave a comment on the upload with a timestamp, does this help the channel? I do this on and off, and so does it help at all? It does. It absolutely does. So if a video were to get like say we do today's stream and then we end and like 3 to 5 of you guys commented, YouTube would send it a lot of traffic, right? The issue is still like, how do I describe? So the live streaming on YouTube is really interesting because it turns into a regular video afterwards. So if you structure your content the right way, it can just become a regular video, and you can very much make videos that just turn into long form content, and people will watch them. And then I was always like, why would anybody watch that? But then I started to find myself doing that. So for Overwatch, people will do like an, you know, thing where they'll take a new account and they'll take it all the way to Masters on the ladder. And those are like 6 to 8 hour videos. And I would just turn it on in the background and watch them, right? So people do watch them. But for our live streams, kind of the issue is that the people that watch those videos afterwards are subscribed to the channel. The people that are not subscribed and maybe click on the video are not likely to watch the video or to, you know, continue coming back. Otherwise, they would subscribe, right? So that's where I feel that the YouTube algorithm recommending those videos to people doesn't really help the channel. So if it doesn't help the channel, we should unlist them so that it doesn't recommend them, in the hopes that the videos that do help get recommended more often, especially to the subscribers, and we get a better engagement number overall, and therefore the algorithm will start to recommend my content more often. So the general gist of that is this. for the live streams, you come back and you comment on it. Yeah, it definitely helps. But the thing that helps the channel even more is that when I make a one-off video, for instance, I have a video about maintaining your algorithmic strategies that we uploaded on Monday. I think there's like one comment on it, right? If that had 5 comments, that would exponentially increase the number of, how much that gets recommended. Right. So that's maybe I should focus on that more. Like, what can I do to the channel to make it so that people are more likely to comment? Because I think it may be the case that I come off as so much of an expert that nobody wants to say anything because they don't have anything to add and they don't want to contradict me. You know what I mean? But that's where it goes back to, I would like to make videos that are more about current events. And then in the comments, there could be a lot more debate about what's going on. Because that's why some of those videos that I did in the past about politics and stuff would do fairly well. Because there's still unresolved issues about it and people want to talk about it. So that's again where it's like I need to start focusing. I guess I should start doing more videos like that, but caption contest? I don't know. The very fact that the market news is over would mean that most people don't go back to rewatch a live stream because they need new information. How could we improve that issue? Yeah. So at the beginning of the stream, the number of people that would watch afterwards was like really significant. Now that the channel is much larger, it's still about the same number of people, but it's just doesn't really move the needle. So. And like I said, like there's limits. Like in the summer right now, there's just less activity overall. And yeah, we have a lot less viewers for some reason. Like I think that we got the regulars like Win, Uzi, Ace, I could count out all of the names. I think Brad watches every day, although he doesn't say things. Who else commented today? Brett, I think, is here every day. Like when you count all of those up. Who else? IQM. And right now it says 13 current viewers, right? Brandon Robbins, there you go. Yeah. Like it's the same 13 people that are watching, right? It's not getting further reach for whatever reason. Like there was a time where we were always up towards 50, right? And then the summer came along. But do you get what I mean? Like, let me say it a different way. For the live stream itself to be substantially more popular, I would have to substantially change the way that I run the live stream, right? So there are some people that are getting like 1,000 viewers doing a similar sort of a thing, right? But they're telling people that they have these signals and everybody's trying to follow their signal. And I explicitly come in and say, I'm not going to give you that. Then they're like, well, then why am I going to watch you? I think an accessible video on strategies for trading the yield curve with micros in August would explode. But what would I say in a strategy video like that, Like I could come in and I could say, okay, here's the instances where the yield curve tends to flatten, and here's the instances where it tends to steepen. There's videos like that out there, right? I think that people want, like, what people really want is when the 5-minute bar is up and we've crossed this moving average within all of these specific conditions, and then you can take a trade. That's what people really want. And I'm different in that I explicitly come in and say that that stuff doesn't really work. Well, that's interesting. Despite the total crypto market hitting 2.5 trillion back in May and then losing about half of that value since then, the New York Mets owner believes that he's still early for zero hedge. I tell you what, you just got me thinking about something. The editorial bias at zero hedge has become exceedingly obvious. It like really stands out over the past month or so. Like think about it. Does zero hedge ever post any, like there was a lot of reports that they were getting where like all of the Wall Street banks were saying, oh, we're going to go higher and like this is why and all of these things, and they were doing all of that stuff about it. Now it's like the only stuff that you ever read is like the world's going to explode. And then the market keeps going higher, you know? If you can lure in viewers with clickbait, but they won't hang around, I think it's smart to stay authentic and gather more of a quality audience and quantity it's still possible to monetize. Yeah. Well, and it's probably the case. I think one thing that might be going on is like why are we at so I think that when we're at 12 versus 24 viewers, this is pretty normal for the summer, right? But like, why did we go from 50 viewers to, 30 viewers? And I think that is like that there's more competition. So there's probably a certain number of viewers that we were always getting that were coming from the discoverability feature of YouTube, and it's not sending us those anymore. IQ says it's been like that forever. It's true. It's just, it's been like particularly extreme this last month as things have kind of gotten slower. Basically, zero hedge hasn't been providing very much edge for us over the past month. Should check all of my correlations here while I'm thinking about it. So. I forgot that the dollar was like at 92.5 overnight. That's kind of matters. I've been keeping an eye on the treasury, but it just hasn't really been doing too much. You could probably buy 14.5, but like that's probably going to go bid. But I don't know how long you're going to have to wait to get filled at 15. It's a little bit of a sketchy trade. No, we should wait until the top of the hour. We got news coming out here in 3 minutes, right? ISM manufacturing, fairly important. It's kind of funny you think about the YouTube channel success because like the channel has been wildly successful, at least compared to my expectations, right? Like one of the things that surprised me, we're to 6,100. So to me, like 100 new subscribers is a lot. And it seems like we were just at 5,000. And for us to have already grown to 6,000 and now 100 more than that, it's like we're gaining like 100 viewers every 2 or 3 weeks. It's like really crazy. And then if I have a video that like really takes off, it goes off. Like we really are like one video away from being a 10,000 subscriber video channel, if I got a good video. Is there a reason why absorption would be time sensitive? I don't think that it has anything to do with it being time sensitive as much as it does how much volatility is in the market. So when there's more volatility, there's a lot more inefficiency for you to take advantage of. If the market is really slow and you have a large order that you have to fill, like using an iceberg order is like practically the only chance that you have of executing it. Because if you were to just market buy into it, you would just screw yourself over. So possible triple top in ZB. They've been hanging out there for a long time. Like I am seeing polling here. Okay, so remember the number we're looking for. Manufacturing prices 86.5. Construction spending spot 4. Manufacturing PMI 61. Oh look, Horse Mumbler is back. Hey. I remember that name. I mean, from a readability perspective, I'm not understand what you're asking. You should try rephrasing it. Treasury's really pulled for that one. Prices paid was high. I tend to see more absorption when the market orders hit the limit at a lower speed. Yeah, well, that still goes back to what I was saying, that you're seeing that because it's a slower market, and in a slower market, you're much more likely to see absorption because using a limit order iceberg is practically the only way that you can execute a large order. So if let's say that it's different. So I think what you're talking about is, if I were to see orders come in and it was like 5 hit 13.5 and then 20 hit 13.5, and it's just kind of a slow trickle of orders that come in, and you'll say, well, that tends to absorb, right? Now there's two things. One thing is that one didn't work out. One thing would be they traded it up and then it adds back on again, and they trade it and adds back on again, right? But then there's also, like, as the orders come in, like the level 2 just doesn't change and it's an iceberg. Okay, so there could be an iceberg, but you also have to remember that, like, the queues, there's certain things about the queues that can kind of make them stabilize. Like a certain number will be there and it'll be like that until something breaks, and then all of a sudden it collapses really quickly. There's some like mathematical properties about it, but I digress. Now think about it in a market where we're moving around. Like, they're hitting 10K there, right? So they moved up here, 14K, 10K. Okay, so what if I want to sell? Okay, well, I could put 1,000 here. Pretty good chance of that getting hit. And then I could sell 1,000 here. And because if I sell 1,000 here and then don't offer anything, there's a pretty good chance that it will just tick back up, and then I'll be able to, wait for it to build up again and hit it for 1,000 again, right? So again, like, the faster the market is, the less need you have for putting on some sort of an iceberg order. So seeing a lot of icebergs is especially in the treasuries is kind of a warning sign that you might not want to trade that area. Unless your edge is something specifically around icebergs. Kind of disappointed in that last trade. I thought that one should have worked out. But then they spiked right back up there. So I suppose that means that construction spending was negative spot 3. Prices paid 92 spot 1 versus 87, so that's inflation. Manufacturing PMI 60 spot 6 versus 60 spot 9. That's really close. Probably a lot of that action was just covering in the volatility around the news and so forth. So maybe the move down that we saw wasn't really a fundamental reading on the news. And that it's unfortunate that didn't get filled there. The less ability you have to put in more limit orders because of the speed. Well, so the thing is that they don't necessarily trade like that. Like usually the big guys that are trading in that fashion have a lot of algorithmic assistance, right? So what they will do. Oh, whoops. Hold on, I screwed up. Well, it's okay, I guess. Wait, should I have taken... Oh, only one fill? What happened? Oh, okay, that wasn't a screw up. That was just it telling me that it couldn't create the order. Okay. I'm starting to suspect the existence of low latency trading robots because that could be human and robot. Yeah. So here's how it works: is they'll a professional, they'll have a DOM just like this, but it has some special features in it. So one of the features is called auto stack auto pull. So basically, what it will do is if it ticks up, it will automatically put a certain number of orders that you specify on there, just to have a place in line. And it's doing that whether it ticks up or it ticks down. It's going to have orders at every spot. So when you look at their DOM, it's going to look something more like this. They're going to have orders at every price, right? And then what they can do. And then if it starts to get filled, okay, like they would have 1,000 bid here, but then if orders really started to hit into it, they'll pull. And that's why you may notice that, as it gets hit, there's a certain number of orders that always cancel, right? Those are robots. Those are robots that are there only to get the spot in the line. And if they're going to actively get filled there, they don't necessarily want it, right? They only want it when the trader comes in and says, okay, actually, I do want to take a certain number of those. And so then they'll click, a certain click to say, okay, actually hold those ones, or turn off the auto pull for certain, on bids for a certain amount of time. And that's kind of how it works. So basically the gist of it is that, like, when it's going fast and everything like that, they can still kind of do that sort of stuff because the robot is doing certain things all the time anyways. Make sense? I wonder if you would receive a bunch of $2 donations if you titled the video, "I am a lonely male trader looking for..." Probably not. Oh man, when you go on TikTok, there's so many videos that are like, you know, well, they call them pick me girls, but it is definitely a thing. Is a girl will try and make herself attractive to a specific audience, specific male audience, you know, and they usually do that by saying, "I have the same interests as you," or whatever the deal is. So there, you can go on there and you can find videos that are like, if only I could find a middle-aged bald man to take care of me, right? Well, like there's videos like that, and they do fairly well too. It's a funny thing, but I don't think it works the other way around. I don't think that I can come in and say, "Oh, I need this and that and blah blah," and that they would come and give me donations. Probably. Well, those are limits of talking about orders, their execution. They're more honest. Well, yeah, but you get like, why are the limit orders less reliable? Well, I wouldn't even put it like they're less reliable, but like, you know, seeing a bunch of orders stack on the DOM on the bid isn't a very good indication of where we're going to go because it could pull, right? But why is that so? Because there's a lot of people that put orders on there just to have the spot in line. But they will do the same thing. They can come in and you can say, "I want to buy a certain amount at 14.5." And if it goes offer, then the algorithm will just automatically buy into it. It'll wait for there to be a certain amount there and automatically buy into it. And they don't have to do anything. And so you could see those flash flickers of activity. When we look at it, we're like, well, that's got to be algorithms and stuff, right? But it could be an algorithmically assisted trader. And in fact, many times it probably is. Only market orders keep limit orders honest. I'm not sure I believe that. Like, here's the thing. There's a real advantage to a limit order, right? You get a better price with a limit order. So, really what it comes down to is that it makes sense to put out a limit order every time and just take every fill that you can get and make money off of the spread. Except for there's this huge risk, which is the adverse excursion by informed traders, right? So there is a certain amount that are always just going to take it. But that's also where really something that's a little bit more telling is when you see pulling. Because when you start to see pulling, that is often the algorithm saying, okay, like I'm seeing enough volume now come in on market volume in a certain direction that I'm afraid there is informed trading against me. And so I'm going to start pulling my offers and not taking the fills. Well, E-mini at 4,300 looking pretty bullish still. So I think Goldman's year-end forecast was 4,300. So where did they go? Where did they go? Well, that's my point. Well, maybe that was your point, but it's really hard for you to make a really well-explained point with just these short little text messages. So sometimes it's really hard for me to understand what you guys are trying to say because you have to be so brief about it. I don't know. The thing is I guess kind of one of the things that I was trying to get at, though, is like all of this stuff happens It's not like it doesn't matter or anything. It's just that as a retail trader, if you're basing your trading entirely off of that, it's kind of hard to really get something, to really have strong profitability off of just that, right? And the reason why I was explaining it in that way is to kind of get the point across that a lot of these things that we think matter happen because they just want a place in line or whatever the deal is, right? So we look at it and we say, oh, the professional traders think X. That must mean that we're going to go up. When the reality is that the professional traders don't think of it that way at all, right? The professional trader just has this algorithm that just takes orders so often, right? And so for something like that to really truly be effective, usually you have to have some sort of a larger edge and bias to it, to know that like there's a certain piece of news and sentiment out there that suggests that we're going to move up, right? And now I can know, well, the large buyers, large banks that execute for clients are likely to be buying it today because of certain things. Okay, wow. That's unusual. Wait, why did it... Oh, shit. Okay, I see. I'm just gonna stop out. It's like I got filled on that other contract and then that other contract immediately stopped out. Hold on. I was talking about what I see, not the other trader who trade. Well, yeah, but what I'm trying to say is what you see probably doesn't matter. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, what do you see? Well, I just saw a 3-tick down move in pretty random action. A move that would normally suggest informed trading, but that I'm a little bit suspicious of. But I think you're missing my larger point. You're still functioning from the perspective that I can use market generated data to make very accurate predictions about the future. And that generally speaking, current market data on a single instrument is not very effective of predicting what the future is going to be beyond the next tick, right? It's much more useful to look at things like, what is the overall market doing? What is the market sentiment that day? What kind of news do we have to trade off of? Today's been a little bit frustrating because we have had news, but we didn't get really strong moves off of that news. And the moves that we did get were kind of a little confusing. So I haven't really been able to have any success with that. I took 1 winner and 3 losers on the treasury off of that. So I guess it's not terrible, but certainly I would thought that I was going to come in and have 2 or 3 really good winners and then be done. Okay. So like, what would be an indication that we're going to move up? What if there was like some fundamentals that I knew would cause banks to buy things, you know? Like that is way more indicative of what's going to happen. Right? Versus I saw an iceberg at 12, Does that mean that it's going to move up or down? Not really. But where the level 2 ends up being really useful is it kind of shows you like where you can take your order, you know? Like if I really wanted to buy right now, what are your chances of getting filled at 12? Well, now it's ticked up. What are your chances of getting filled at 12.5? Pretty high, right? Makes sense. If you really wanted to buy right now, would you market order into 13? No, that wouldn't make any sense because you're pretty likely to get the fill at 12.5. Now that it's thickened up a little bit, that's maybe not as true anymore. It changes very quickly, but you get what I'm saying. It opened higher, that's why it went up. No. Why don't you trade NQ? Why would I trade NQ? Why would I trade NQ? There weren't tangents. It was all to the point of what is actually indicative of future movements. The little tiny things that we see on the DOM is useful in order for us to identify what the current market state is, but they aren't very good at predicting the future. Okay, and much better in one bar you make 10 times more. Okay, so if in one bar you can make 10 times more than on another instrument, then why not just trade the other instrument with 10 lots? More predictable in NQ? How is it more predictable? So, man, you guys are getting me in like an argumentative mood. I think that you're making a fallacy that I see really commonly in retail day traders. And that is, I should go and I should trade the thing that moves the most, because that's where I have the opportunities to make the most money. And generally what ends up happening to people when they trade off of that theory is they just end up blowing up faster because they're trading a more leveraged instrument, right? The reason you should trade a particular instrument over another instrument is because you have an edge in that instrument. Really good conversations. Thank you. I'm also, anytime people start asking me questions like that, I get a little suspicious because some people try to troll me, but I kind of started to go through and was like, no, this guy is interested in what is going on over there. Because Salim has kind of been asking questions like that are kind of been like, what? I mean, it's kind of weird because you can kind of get a feel for things, but yes, on NQ you can have an edge when you learn if you say so. Can you prove that empirically? So what would be the source of, so there'd be two questions. Is one, can you prove that empirically? And two, what is the source of that edge? And furthermore, the question, I mean, because I'm like trading bonds over here, right? Okay, NQ. Why NQ versus ES? So can you show me there's an edge that you're getting in NQ that you're not getting in ES? And what is the source of that edge? And can you prove it empirically? That is not just, oh, I traded it and I've made money off of it, right? But something that I would be able to go and verify for myself. When you learn faster on demo if you blow up faster? Well, look, it's not difficult to blow up your account. That's not really a challenge. Okay, JC says follow the MA20. Okay, let's do it. New strategy analyzer. Hold on, Windows installer. Let's ask this other question first because it's much I can really show this guy something here, right? Okay, so I have this thing, moving average, the ultimate filters. Okay, so look at this. I have like literally every filter ever. No, you're fine, Window. I'm going to come back to you. Remind me. So you say follow the MA, that probably just means the simple moving average, right? 20 period simple moving average on 1 minute data. We will go back. I think that we should always try to go back 5 years or so. So we will go back to 2016 and we will use the instrument settings and we will do, you said NQ, right? NQ. Okay. Now we can also use stops and targets. So I'm going to use a really wide stop. So let's say 100 ticks. Maybe you come in, you could tell me how large your stop is, but we're just going to do 100 ticks, okay? Include commissions. You tell me and then we'll change it up. But for the sake of keeping y'all interested, I'm just going to run it right there with a couple of assumptions. I don't know what you mean by imperials. What did I say, imperials? Oh, imperial. Empirical. EMPIRCA. Okay, so empirical means that evidence that can be verified by other people. Here, let's pull it up on empirical. Based on, concerned with, or verifiable by observation or experience rather than theory or pure logic. Right. Okay. So it looks like you get a 50-50. You make money on your long trades. Oh, you really lose money on your short trades. Oy. Okay. With strategies, nothing ever works. I only believe on manual trading. Okay. But so stick with me here for a second. The sound exaggerated the definition. Okay. Empirical means based on, concerned with, or verifiable by observation or experience rather than theory or pure logic. Okay. Now, here's another word that I want that we should define. Anecdotal. Anecdotal. An account not necessarily true or reliable because it is based on personal accounts rather than facts or research. Okay. So when I say show me something empirical, that means show me something that I can literally look at and verify for myself. So this strategy right here, this is empirical. It's empirical because I can give you the code. I can give you the code and the data set that I've used, and you can run it on your own computer and see the results of that strategy. And then if you had a problem with the way that that strategy was run, you could go in and you could say, well, actually, you need to do this. You would change the strategy code or the parameters, rerun it, send it back to me. Then I would be able to say, oh, yes, okay, that does work or that doesn't work, etc., etc., etc. Oh, you use the previous barrier stop? I've actually done that before in a strategy, but I didn't work better than set stops and targets. At least not on the strategy that I tried it on. Yes. Okay. So, when I come in here and I say, is the cross of a simple moving average with a 100 tick stop an edge? Not really. Even if you're only going long, profit factor not very good. But more to the point, why would it be better in NQ than in ES? Let's run it on ES. Let's run it on ES. Let's see if the profit factor or the Sharpe ratio or whatever ends up being different. Oh, it will be different because I changed the stop. Well, we'll do it with a 100 tick stop anyways. Should probably do more like 40 or 50. 0.91. That was a little bit worse, but that was because it took so many. 40. Strategy analyzer is 100% wrong always. Okay, so this is where it kind of gets kind of interesting. Wow, that is just terrible. That is just terrible. So when I go through all of that, what I'm getting is, if you're only going long, you can do a little bit better on NQ because NQ has gone further on bull runs lately. Anyways. Okay, so first of all, to say that the strategy analyzer is 100% wrong always is not... so basically what you're saying is any sort of way of going about things that would be empirical to prove whether something works or not is unreliable. So like, you believe that I can come into the strategy analyzer and trade a moving average crossover strategy and it will say that it will fail, but then if you actually traded it live, it would work? Because that sounds kind of ridiculous to me. Are you setting on the opens only? It should be roughly the same as ES, shouldn't it? There is a difference between the two of them by a profit factor of 0.04. But when you look at the NQ took way more trades. Yeah, I'm wondering why. I really thought that 100 tick stop would have given, but apparently it needs to be upped. Because this one took 14 and this one took 9. So probably for NQ, it needs to be more like a 200 tick stop. What do you mean by set it from the open? Do you mean that the moving average gets reset at the open? It will get reset. This is not one of those indicators that carries through. So it will reset at the session close of this. Oh, actually it's not that. It's that 200 is too much. It should be more like 6 is not okay. So 150 maybe. But then when you do that, it starts to get in line with the ES. So yes. Oh, you're talking about the resolution. Well, that can be the case. There, I think that's kind of more what we're looking for. Yep, that's pretty comparable to what we got in the ES. It actually is a little bit better though. Okay, so what you're talking about is the fill resolution. So the fill resolution, it really depends on how far your targets and stops are, right? Because where the tick resolution really ends up mattering is when you have one bar that would have touched both your stop and your target. Which one did it hit first? It doesn't know, right? So that the smaller your targets tend to be, or the smaller your average profit and the smaller your average stop is, the more that not using high fill resolution is going to affect things. So if I reran these with high fill resolution, I'm not going to do that because it would probably take like 15 minutes. But if I did that, the result would be different, but it would be a pretty small difference. It's not going to change this strategy that is objectively bad, that is very much not profitable. It's not going to make it a profitable strategy, right? It's not going to make it a profitable strategy. So I have a video they made 2 weeks ago where I talk about the backtesting and so forth, where I talk about all of those issues. So I'm well aware of the resolution on there and when it matters and so on and so forth. A lot of the times when I'm really running my strategies, like I have something that I've been backtesting and I feel really confident on, then I want to go back and I want to run it on like with tick replay or like a 1 tick resolution series underneath. A lot of the strategies that I like to do this stuff on, you can't actually use the fill resolution change. And so I have to like build that stuff into the strategy itself, which is kind of annoying. But point though is if you're trading on a 20 period moving average, I'm going to suggest you look for another strategy. But that wasn't really the point. The point was the question you asked is why not trade NQ? So as of yet, all we've shown is that what have we established? It's more leveraged. So you could just trade the other one with more contracts, would make up for it. And 2, the NQ has more positive skew to it over the time period that we've tested with. You'll have 100% different result. No, that's not true. It'll be pretty similar. So what you have to go in and you would say, out of the 8,000 trades that it took, which number of those trades would actually be affected by the fill resolution? Which is to say, situations where the stop and the target would have been touched within the same bar. And when we're talking about a 100 tick stop, the number of cases that's going to happen is very, very small, right? That's only going to be like 1% of trades or something like that. Whereas if we changed it around, let's say that we were doing it on ES and we were only looking for a 4 tick stop and target, well, then our results are going to be significantly different, right? Because that's like 90% of all bars. Only count trades on the US Open in a 1 minute moving average? Well, that would be an interesting way. So are you saying like you trade the moving average, but only within like the first 5 minutes of the session? When there's like really strong volume? Tick replay works too, yeah. There's some real issues with tick replay though, Jay-Z. You get a strategy that's like working on tick replay. My experience with it so far has been that what you get in the if you put it on a sim account and run it live is just different, especially because tick replay strategies tend to be people trying to do like really high frequency kind of stuff. And so then there's really is those little subtle differences between the tick replay and the real data ends up being significant. $30 tick stop loss and 100 tick target. Well, so I was running a strategy the other day that did this sort of a thing, actually. Where was it? Yeah, this one right here. It was like literally only taking a trade on the open during a certain situation. And over the past 2.5 years, it did okay. The Sharpe ratio wasn't very good. The Sharpe ratio wasn't very good, but it did okay. I have to go back here. Which were the ones that was like the really high Sharpe ratios? Oh, yeah, that's right. Like, so these are some of my tick replay ones. So I had some of these, like I have this one that's a tick replay strategy, and it had a Sharpe ratio over 1, which I was really happy about. But then when I started running it on live data, it just like it almost never won. It almost never won, and I was like, what the heck is going on? But there seems to be some difference between how the strategy analyzer runs on tick replay and when it doesn't. Which is, I suppose, why NinjaTrader has like, they don't really support tick replay in the strategy analyzer. Yeah. I probably should go back to that one and try some things. But you know what? The other issue with this one is that it was based on 244 trades, which isn't a lot, right? This one right here, Brandon, that's a little bit better. I really want one that's like over 50% though, right? So, but my goal was, you know, it did all these things where it's like, well, if you have a certain skew and things like that, but you know, a lot of these ones that have the really good win rates, so you don't have a lot of samples. It's still the best one. Oh yeah, there's this candlestick one. Oh my gosh, that one's so dumb though. That one, the candlestick, that's data snipping is what that one is. Anyways, no. You got me off. I need to make sure I make the first point first. You should trade the instrument that you have an edge in. When I say edge, you should be able to empirically demonstrate that there is an edge. That is that using data that other people can look at and verify and like run through it themselves. Here's the strategy. You run through on historical data. You run it yourselves. Is there an edge in it? Yes. And then have an edge that is you can really explain where the edge comes from. So if you go through and you backtest and you try all of these different indicators together until you find something that seems to work, and then you try it and you're making money, okay, but like why? How do you know that that's not random? Because a lot of those strategies, they'll like work for a while and then they disappear. But if I can prove that my strategy works because of something structural about the market. So for instance, Jay-Z's trade has some merit there to that, okay? We're trying to take advantage of a structural inefficiency with the open because there's a lot more activity at the open. That's great. That's exactly the sort of thing that I think you should be going for, because if you find an edge in there, then you can have an edge that's based on a structural property of the market. And ergo, that trade is likely to continue to be around always. And then the only thing that you have to worry about is the competition for that edge, right? But it will always be there. And somebody will always be making money off of it. It's just maybe it won't be you because they beat you to it, right? If it's structural. Okay, so I should pick something about the structure of my instrument that is going to be an advantage to me, right? So what I'm saying is the kind of structures that I like to take advantage of. Oh man, I can't believe that the Treasury went all the way down there. Like they literally just like went and stopped me out and then plummeted down, didn't they? That sucks. Well, it's okay because I had already been past like my well, I don't know if I would have gotten trades in that or not. We'll see. They're being difficult. But this is kind of an experiment anyways, that particular trade, so I don't think I should be going like, oh, I should have done something. But I just realized how much it went down. Anyways, yeah. So the structural edges that I'm trying to take advantage of have to do with the cues themselves, right? Ergo, it makes more sense for me to trade an instrument that is really slow and has relatively large cues. So what it really comes down to. NQ, it's like, well, you would make more money. You would also lose more money. And if you don't actually have a real structural edge over there, and the structural edge that you're going to catch in NQ is going to be completely different from what you catch in the treasuries. They're completely different markets, right? So the fact that it moves more on its own is not a good reason to trade it. It's the same with like the 10-year versus why should I trade the 10-year versus the 30-year? Well, the 30-year does move more, but the 10-year has more liquidity. If I'm trying to read the liquidity, it makes more sense to do it in the 10. Right? That was the answer to that question. Seriously, was only because of the amount of time you spend in the market. I was trying to change that so that the amount of time that you were in the market was pretty same between the two of them, but all markets move, but that's bullshit. That's absolutely not true, actually. Well, all markets use limit order books, and there are structural oddities about limit order books that are going to be the same between all of them. But 10-year treasuries moves very different from the E-mini. I think that's like a really good example. So did I didn't close. Yeah, I did actually. I closed the strategy analyzer. Do you think this is like worth a sell here at 08? I think it could be. I'm not seeing like a straight inefficiency that I could take advantage of at the moment. Oh, maybe if it came back to 09. I'm going to leave it alone for a little bit because I've only got 15 minutes left anyways. So if we come back to the strategies that we were just doing, oops, that one. Yes, this one right here. Okay. And then instead, I did it on ZB. And let's say that I'm using a 16 tick stop and target. Okay. 20. Everything else is the same. Include commission. Run. Okay. So based on what most technical analysis teaches, the properties of it on the 10-year treasury should be pretty similar, right? It could be. It's been a while since I've run a moving average on the treasury, so I don't really recall off the top of my head what I get. I suspect, though, that it's going to be objectively worse. Like you're going to get a profit factor of like 0.87 or something. Okay, that's pretty close, actually. Close to the same. 0.95 actually on that one. Let's see here. Oh, how come it's not showing me the trades? Oh, because I'm not saving them. That's why. Yeah. Some strategies, if you try and save all of the results, it will take forever. So you can tell it to not save the individual trades to save memory, and that's what this strategy is doing. I have to go back into the code and turn it back on to be able to see if there was ever a period where it was doing well or not. I don't know. If I search for Oliver Vales, it doesn't turn up anything. Okay, so going back, what was it? Jay-Z asked another question. You were talking about demo. So really the issue is for trading, the barrier to having the great filter is having an actual edge, right? Having a setup that actually provides a real reason that it should be more likely to go to your target than your stop within the given time frame and risk parameters, right? Like that's the true barrier. So everything else that you're doing, whether you're trading live or you're doing on sim, like it might be great. Maybe if you're trading live, you're going to be gaining more control over your emotions, hopefully, and like over your risk management. But if you don't have something that actually gives you a greater probability of it hitting your target before your stop, then it doesn't matter, really, does it? Because you're still likely to blow out at some point. So, man, I don't see why trading a more risky strategy would make any sense. I mean, yeah, I suppose that you could go and you could trade something where your stop is a lot further away than your target and you'd win most of the time and you'd feel great. But I don't know if you'd really actually be learning anything. That's interesting. Yeah, this down move is coming back. I want to know, why was it that it wasn't until 8 it traded? Well, actually, no. Did I take? Oh, okay, so that one was the one that I got screwed over on. Was at 8:05. Oh wait, yeah, it was at 8:05. Oh, okay. So, It was even trying to. So what happened was they kind of didn't go anywhere, but then in the end they did move down, and that would be because, what was the numbers again? Probably because of the manufacturing prices paid. What was I doing? I'm not quite sure. I don't really remember anymore. Like, the thing is that news came out, and I remember saying, no, well, yeah, why wasn't I short? Oh, you know what I think probably happened? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, I tried selling it, and I got stopped out. And then 5 minutes later, I tried to buy. I think I wasn't making a call on the larger direction. I was just saw a little bit of an inefficiency there temporarily. So I probably shouldn't have taken that one. I think that normally I would say, well, the trend direction should be down, and so I don't want to take a buy scalp even if I see it. But I had determined at that point that maybe the news didn't matter enough and that there wasn't anything there. And in that case, I just hadn't been patient enough. So if I had waited another, if I had waited until after that big sell there, then I probably could have flipped around and taken a short and made something out of it. So I think that's where I got things wrong. So I think that I made a pretty big mental mistake there. Seth, on the CQG versus rhythmic video on Jigsaw, which one is faster? So we went through that, and my conclusion is that they're roughly the same speed, and that any difference that we could see between the two DOMs was only a result of using the NinjaTrader bridge. Furthermore, I would state that for if you want to use Jigsaw, you're almost certainly better going off with Rhythmic, because in order to use Jigsaw with your CQG account, there's like a fee associated with it and crap. It's dumb. At least if, well, depending. I'm using NinjaTrader brokerage, and they told me that if I wanted to allow me to connect with Jigsaw directly, that I had to pay an extra $10 a month, which is dumb, right? Versus Rhythmic, there's no fee, and you can just use Rhythmic Trader Pro and forward that data to everything instead, which I think is like a way better system. So I think that Rhythmic is better for Jigsaw, at least right now. Yep. Yeah, I feel dumb. I kind of want to understand why. Well, actually, I think I do understand why. I'm just mad because I made a mistake, but the reason I made the mistake was because I was expecting something to happen right then, and it happened maybe like 5-10 minutes after the news instead. And like during normal action, I would maybe be somewhat vigilant. So like I probably still would have taken the initial trade and stopped out and then seen it later and been like, okay, you guys are just trying to be sneaky, right? But today I was just like, okay, fine, it's the summer, screw it, you know? And so then I made the mistake. I missed it. So it sucks. And the robot didn't make it. So I had 1 winner, 3 losers on the scalps. And then the robot took one and it was a failure. So unfortunate. Good luck. Yeah, well, fortunately for me, I'm not risking any capital right now. I'm probably not going to risk any capital until the micro treasury yield futures come out. I'm saving all my risk for that. And even then, I think I will be pretty, how do I say, pretty cautious with my trades, and I'm going to be favor news trades more, because that's the one place where I know that we tend to have an edge. There's lots of other little edges that we've been able to find, but like it's still hard to take advantage of those. So yeah, what should we call today's strategy? It's interesting how the market reacted so much stronger to the ISM numbers than they did the jobs. There's a lot going on, but then there's like not a lot going on. Like it's a lot of small insignificant things, but there's nothing big going on, and the market is still summer slog. It's still, I still feel it's really difficult. What you call it? I will leave Jay on here today just to see what he does. Let's see, maybe if I just go and look at some other outlets, what are they saying? We should say ISM, something about ISM. Oh, no, sorry, not, yeah, it was ISM. Spark renewed inflation fears. That's what I'm gonna put. There we go. By the way, for past live streams, you can go onto my channel and there is a playlist with all of them in there. I only keep the latest one listed for now. So you want to go and there's that video about the difference between CQG and rhythmic. I might go back and like do like a more edited video for that later and make that into a real video, but I digress. So time for me to get going. I will see you guys tomorrow for the big jobs numbers. In the meantime, stay profitable.